Hello friends, welcome to Squaird Plans, where creative planning and organization comes to life. I'm Stephanie, and today we're going to be designing my faith planner for the month of April. We'll be setting up all my monthly and weekly pages in my classic happy planner, so come play with me. And I've got these brush tip markers here, ready to go, along with some various washies I may use, these happy planner sticker books, and this Planning Things sticker book, which I'll pull from. Okay, you guys, so let's get started with the weekly layouts for April. I have an idea I think that I want to do with some florals from these two Happy Planner sticker books. And so we'll see if I can make that work here first on the weeklies and then move on to the monthlies if it all works out. So I had this idea to do like a washi cross with some florals wrapping around them. Thought that would be perfect for this time of year. Would have actually been really nice for Easter, but since Easter came just a smidge too early this year, we'll do it for April just the same and see how it all turns out. I think it'll still be really nice for my faith layout. So I have a couple of washi tapes I'm using. The pink one is about double the width of the green one that I have, so I'm going to cut that down and then make a cross, like I said, with that washi. Once I do that, I'm going to wrap some florals that I've chosen from those Happy Planner sticker books to wrap around kind of the center point of the cross and just see how that looks. I don't have a lot of smaller florals. They're mainly just these clusters, which are either really, really large or just sort of large. So what I decided to do was to use the sort of large ones for the weeklies and then save the extra large clusters for the monthly pages. What I tend to do for my weeklies is to set them all up on this one spread. I really like to see what each week is going to be all at once, and it also makes it a little bit easier for setting things up because I can see what I need for each and make them look a little bit more uniform that way. I really like my themes to be consistent across the entire month if I'm doing all of the month in one theme, so that just makes it a little bit easier to see how things are shaping up and how things relate to each other when I have the 4 different weeks there all on one spread to kind of get an idea. Yeah, basically this decor that I'll be making in each of these cross areas is going to be in the this week upper left corner of each weekly. And as you can see, I did a little test run before filming there in the bottom right on that green cross option and just wanted to see how that might work. So basically using that as a template and then building off of that for each of these individual weekly decor clusters. Like I said, the florals are a little bit tricky. There were some really, really large ones and then a few small ones. So I'm trying to use the smaller ones here on the weekly since there's not too much space. They can fit nicely in that corner area. I have the double rose clusters, or I don't think these are roses. I think this is something else, but I'm not very good with floral names. So there are the double clusters of the flowers and then also the budded, unopened floral option as well, and these smaller stickers. That's really the only 2 variations that I saw from these sticker books. And nice that I had both because each book has the exact same florals just in a little bit different sizes. So it made it a lot easier for me to use those across the entire month. I think I have a good cluster on each of these cross areas, so let's try and add in just a bit more texture with some washi tape. I have my favorite script washi here that I'm going to bring in and just kind of layer it behind some of these elements just to give a little bit more something to these clusters. And then lastly, to kind of finish off each, I'm going to add a small quote. I have purchased recently some new faith quotes, which I'm really excited about, but their color schemes that I had didn't quite go with what I wanted to do with these cross floral elements. So I'm using some quotes from the Planny Thing. They're not faith-based quotes, but I did try to choose the ones that I felt, could work for a faith-based theme, but aren't really faith-oriented, if that makes sense. I did my best. I really wanted it to match up, and I will be adding verses every day on each of these layouts, so I'll have plenty of faith-based content on each of the pages. So I'm not too worried that the quotes aren't a perfect, faith-oriented vibe for each of the layouts. So that said, I'm going to lay in that first one, and then I'll go ahead and white out this week on all of the weeklies, just so that those are ready to go, and then drop in those clusters. So one of the tricky things that I found when I was actually moving these over to the page was getting things straight and even after moving it from the wax paper. So just an idea that maybe you'll want to lay the washi tape over the page first before you do the stickering to make your life a little easier. I think that would have been simpler. You'll see me move over these crosses over in pieces because of that, because a lot of times things weren't quite straight on the wax paper before I moved them. And now I am trimming the excess off once it hits kind of the edge of the boxes, just to make that nice and clean. I do like it to be a little bit more rough on the end, but I think just for this application here on the weeklies, we'll make a nice clean cut and see how that works out. And again, just gonna try to move it all over at once, but it tends to not come over as straight as I'd like. And you'll see I'll probably have to adjust this a bit even after the fact, after I cut it down. Now those double clusters, I didn't really mention this, but I cut them in half so I would have one big floral on each, and then for each of those clusters I also added one of those smaller budded floral elements and then extra leaves and things as needed. So that was the methodology that I used to develop each one of the weeklies. And now that I've got that done, we're going to go ahead and move on to the monthly. This was the only spread I wasn't 100% sure I made the right decision. I originally was going to cut down all of the pink washi to be that skinnier size, but then I felt like maybe it was going to be too small for these extra large florals. So I went with it at size, that double wide size, and do think that it's better to scale for the florals that I had to work in, but did feel like it was a little bit cramped there on the sidebar and in the top because the first day of the month starts on Monday. And so I only had really one empty day to play with to give me that cross section of the cross into the month before I got into some functional space. So that said, maybe it might have been a little bit better had I done it half size, but we'll go with what you see there and make it working around just the larger cross and adding in, again, those extra large florals. Here's a little bit of awkwardness here since I did cut this from another floral, so the leaves are hanging out there, not quite in the right orientation. I'm going to trim those off and then reposition those in a minute. Also trying to figure out how to lay in this smaller floral so it looks good. The combination of these is a little bit tricky, I will say. I've also already laid in the script washi in the background to help layering go a little bit smoother. And I'm just feeling it out with those leaves and those extra pieces. I want it to feel very organic on there. I don't want it to look too uniform. So I'm just trying to place them where they feel like it's a natural fit for each of those leaf elements. So like I said, it was a little bit tricky finding quotes that I really wanted to use on this spread. And I am using these Plan Anything quotes, but thought it would be a little bit better to modify this one that said believe in yourself to say believe in good, just again because it's a little more faith-based. I also have 4 empty days there at the end of the month that I would like to put something in, so trying to figure out what would work there without distracting from that nice cross element I have. So I decided maybe just to add in a bit more of the washi, add that color in along with a little bit more of the script just to reiterate those themes across the spread. And I cut down some of the pink washi tape too. That color combination, again, reiterated. I think that's going to have to do it since I'm really going to need the rest of that space for function. Let's go ahead and start moving things over. And again, this got kind of tricky with the move over, keeping everything nice and even and straight. I wanted to shift it up just a smidge as well so it didn't hit too far into day 7 of the month there. I use my monthly to do an application each day off of my daily Bible reading. It's like a takeaway is what I call it from what I read, just something that I can apply to my life. So I do use pretty much all the space in each of the days of the month and didn't want to block too much of that usable space. So I've got that in and I trimmed it out, and now I'm going to lay in that washi in the bottom right. I did white out the separating lines for those 4 days just to make it look a little bit cleaner down there and to really emphasize that that's the empty days of the month. It would have been nice to add maybe another floral element there, but I think for now we will go with that and move on to the next spread, which is my month overview spread. This spread in particular is available in my shop if you are new to my channel. It is a faith overview, which is geared towards, faith-based planning or tracking. I have a spot there on the side for some habits and the prayer list. I also have the empty spaces all around for whatever you would like to do. You can use those for functional items, tracking, things like that, or just add some added decor, which is what I'll be doing mostly on my spreads in the dot grid areas. And then at the very bottom, I have a little area of reflection on your month so that you can check in with your spiritualness and just see how your faith is doing each month. Just answer some of those prompts and check in. So like I said, this is available in my shop as an add-on, which is what I'm using here, and I have this at the front of my faith planner each month. I basically use all of the items as they're prescribed, except for just adding in more decor there in the empty spaces. I usually put a verse each month in the right page in that big area there at the top, but I think the way that I'm going to design this decor on the spread this month, I will put that maybe at the top on the left once I work things out. So something a little different. It is the start of a new quarter, so anything, different isn't always bad. We'll go and see how that looks and maybe carry that through for the next couple months. I also felt like I wanted a little bit more floral decor here in the bottom on the left-handed page as well as on the right. So I'm just trying to figure out how to incorporate that. I have a couple of large stems that I think might work. Definitely pull back on adding florals a bit to those larger clusters. That one large floral seems to be enough to really take on the large crosses that I've been doing. And as you can see, I had set up that cross there on the right-handed page with a double washi tape layer in order to get the thickness of the one that was previously done on the monthly. And on this page, I think it really works. I'm still, like I said, undecided on the monthly version, but this overview monthly page, I think that larger cross does the job and really does fit in well. So now I'm just playing around with positioning of just different leaves and filling out some of these clusters I'm creating here in the top left and the bottom right. Just making it feel full and balanced on all sides. I did another washi layering here at the bottom. We've got the script washi and the pink and the green in small uniform layers, no overlap, just kind of more like stripes on the page. And I think I want to trim this washi tape down a bit, just so it has a nice clean edge. And we'll go ahead and try to place these ones over here as well. Again, placing washi straight along with the decor was a little bit tricky, so decided just to move it over by hand, and that works much better. Also needed to shift in that little bit of script washi just so it looked similar to the other layouts that I created. And I'll trim off the excess. I also need to trim out these holes here as well while I'm at it, just so I can fit this guy back in the planner. And I'm just using my precision cutter for this and my small Daiso cutting mat. And let's see if we can roll this guy off. Might be easier to do since it has so much of an alignment situation going on here with the washi tapes being right next to each other to look seamless. And that actually worked pretty well as I was pulling it off. Thankfully, I had designed it fairly straight, so it came over onto the page very straight as well. Did see a couple of little tweaks to make, but overall it came in really smooth. And I don't know what happened to this washi tape, but it's got like little bits of black kind of hanging out behind some of it, like right off the roll. I hadn't unfurled it, but something in the manufacturing process left these little specks of black that I needed to pull off with my finger. I also went ahead and trimmed off that cross on both edges, and I think that's going to do it for those pages. The last page we're going to set up here is the month-end notes page. And here what I'm going to do is just do a single layer cross with the smaller florals, but just basically using the large floral as the smaller floral, that larger bud, and add in some leaves and some script washi just to finish things out over there. I think for this month, I'm going to go back to what I did in January, which was to mark each week the things that I was seeing God do in my life. That was a very good exercise as well as a somewhat low commitment exercise. So that was perfect for this back page since I do struggle with using this page to its fullest as needed. I found some of these empty colorful box flags from the layered floral sticker book, just trying to match up the colors as best as I can from what I could find in there. And I think those 4 will do the job. I'll use those for each of the 4 weeks that I'll be tracking for the month, and I'll label those here in a second. I'll also add in just a smidge more of the washi tape down here at the bottom to finish things out. Just felt like I needed a little bit more color, a little bit more something here on the bottom. And I just layered that in. We'll trim it out. I also will need to trim out the hole here so that I can, again, get it back into my planner. And I didn't bother doing this one on the wax paper. I just did it right on the page, and that actually worked out well. So thankfully it did. Thought about adding in a quote here, but then realized I was going to have to write in the activity for this page, so I'll just hand write it in using my black brush tip marker, and I think that'll work out nicely. So I'm labeling out each of the weeks on those flags as well, so let me go ahead and do that. I like to pencil things in because I make tons of mistakes, and then I will go ahead and rewrite it with my brush tip marker and my fine liner. And the brush tip marker that I prefer is the Fudenosuke brush tip in a hard tip, not the soft, but the hard tip, mainly because it's great for smaller brush lettering, and with control, it's very helpful, especially for anybody who is a beginner or just getting started out with lettering. I went ahead and wrote in God's work in the green tipped Tombow brush tip marker. And then I will use that color and the soft pink color here on the overview spread to bring some highlights to the habit trackers, prayer list, and then also to the currently check-in area. So now I am on the monthly, and here I'm just going to use the same colors every other day to denote a small area for tracking the verses I've read each day. So above there, I'll write in the application, and then I'll below write in the verses that I read. Finally, I'll just go ahead and pen in the actual habits that I track each month. And basically, once I'm done with that, you guys, we will be done, friends. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also, too, go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch. And think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Bye.